A T190 quits mid-lift. The display reads 314, battery voltage extremely low. The battery is 3 weeks old. Nothing's draining it. That code isn't naming the broken part. It's describing what the machine feels. And that gap, what it feels versus what's actually broken, is the difference between an afternoon and a real repair bill. So, here are the T190's actual weak points, the symptom each one shows first, and what each one really costs. Start with how this machine talks. There's a display that counts your hours and shows service codes. When something's wrong, a number appears there. That number is the entire conversation. Everything else is guessing. And if more than one code is present, the codes scroll. Plural. That detail saves people thousands. Because 3 codes scrolling usually isn't 3 problems. It's 1 problem and 3 complaints about it. Like a group chat blowing up while you're driving. You catch the last message and miss the actual news. So watch the full scroll before you touch anything. The code you happen to catch is rarely the cause. Weak point 1 is also the cheapest, and the manual is blunt about it. Grounds. Corroded or loose grounds cause exactly the symptoms you'd swear had to be something expensive. Voltage codes that contradict each other, sensors reading nonsense, faults that vanish before you get a meter on them. It's the charging cable that only works at one angle. Nothing's broken. The path just isn't clean. Fix cost, a wire brush, a wrench, an hour. Ignore it and you replace good parts until you get lucky. Same family, the connectors at the controller. The manual says check that they're locked into place. Then check inside for pins pushed back or bent. A backed-out pin looks perfectly connected. It isn't. Now the charging system, because that's where the misleading codes usually start. The T190 carries a 90-amp alternator. When it fades, the machine never says alternator. It complains about voltage. You'll see battery voltage low, then extremely low, and if the regulating side fails, instead extremely high. Before you buy anything, do what the manual does first. Look at the belt. If the belt is worn or deteriorated, replace it. Sometimes that's the entire repair. Then check the alternator fuse and the fuse panel. And if it's burned, this part matters. Find the cause. Don't just swap it. A fuse that blew once will blow again, usually somewhere far less convenient. If the fuse is even in doubt, pull it and check continuity. Burned fuses don't always look burned. That's the pattern for this whole machine, and it's what separates a cheap day from an expensive one. Almost every 4-figure failure on a T190 started as a cheap one. Nobody bothered to check. If that just changed how you'd read a code, that's exactly what this channel is for. Stick around. Next, the 2 things this machine breathes through. It has a code for each, and they're not the same. One means air filter plugged, the other means air filter not connected. Very different afternoons. Plug shows up as lazy power first. The machine pulls, then sags under load, then puffs a little dark. It's a milkshake through a coffee stirrer. The engine's still trying. The straw is the problem. A filter in 20 minutes fixes that. Ignore it and you're feeding an engine dust on purpose. There's an identical pair on the hydraulic side, charge filter plugged and charge filter not connected. And that's the one that quietly turns a cheap machine into an expensive one. Here's the mechanism. The charge filter stands between your hydraulic pump and everything the system has picked up since new. When it plugs, the pump starts pulling against a restriction it was never designed to fight. The first symptom isn't a code at all. It's arms that feel tired on a cold morning and fine by noon. You'll blame the weather. It isn't the weather. It's the pump working harder to move the same load. On schedule, that filter is routine service. Skip long enough, you're not buying a filter anymore. Now the cluster that strands the most T190s, and almost none of it's expensive, the seat bar. There's a code for seat bar sensor short to battery, and one for short to ground. The symptom is a machine that acts completely dead. Nothing lifts, nothing drives, and everything looks normal. You're sitting in it, bar down, belt on, and the loader has decided you aren't there. It's the seat belt that clicks but doesn't latch. Your end is right. The switch behind it disagrees. The locks tell the same story. Handle lock short to ground, handle lock short to battery. And a matching pair for the pedal lock, short to ground, short to battery, 4 codes, 1 cause. Nearly always, it's wiring, a chafe point, a connector. Wire, loom, an afternoon of tracing. That's the bill, which is why it stings watching somebody condemn a controller over one of them. Now, some codes here aren't false at all, and knowing which is which saves you a whole day. One reads switch flipped while operating. Another reads control pattern switch flipped while operating. That's not a failure. That's the machine noting somebody changed something mid-shift. Cycle the key. There's even a code that simply means the controller is asking for a password. Nothing is broken. But lift handle information error is real. That's the machine saying it no longer trusts what the handle reports. The advanced control side has its own vocabulary too, not communicating with the controller and not calibrated. Not calibrated isn't a broken part. It's a procedure that never got finished, and it reads like a failure. There's a tilt actuator fault and separately a tilt actuator wiring fault. The machine is pointing at the difference. Now, the hydraulics, where the real repair bills live, and here's the one number worth memorizing. Main relief pressure on this machine is approximately 3,300 psi. That's the ceiling everything works against. But the manual won't let you test cold. It warms the fluid to a set temperature first, on purpose. Cold fluid reads thick and high. Test cold and you'll like the number, then replace the wrong part. On the high flow side, the manual watches flow, not just pressure. Flow should fall off sharply near the top. At full relief, flow should be at zero. If it isn't, that relief valve is passing oil past itself. And a valve that passes feels exactly like a worn pump. Slow lift, slow tilt, worse as it heats up. One of those is a valve you adjust or replace, the other is a pump. Same symptom, completely different in voice. So test before you buy. That's the whole difference between an afternoon and a genuinely bad week. One more line from the manual, and it's a safety one. Check only one cylinder at a time. Stored hydraulic pressure doesn't care that the engine is off. Rushing that step is how people get hurt. Same discipline with solenoids, and this machine has a code for nearly every one of them. Front base, front rod, diverter, rear auxiliary relief. Each one reports an error on and an error off. Before replacing one, the manual has you measure the coil. The spec is about 9.8 ohms. A coil that measures right and shifts when you power it means your fault is upstream. Wiring, switch, controller. The fuel shutoff solenoid has its own code for an open circuit, a broken path, already narrowed down for you. Last weak point, and on a track loader it's the expensive one you can actually control. The undercarriage. The service manual has a whole section pairing each kind of track damage with its probable cause, and then it lists preventions, the steps that minimize that damage before it starts. Read that section twice. So here's the video in one line. This machine names symptoms, not parts, and the cheap causes come first. Grounds and connectors, then filters and the belt, then pressure, warm with a gauge, never with a guess. Subscribe, and the next one is the T190 hydraulic pump flow test. Start to finish, exactly the way the manual runs it. The exact specs are in the service manual linked below. Like this if it saved you a guess.